What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Geeks Got Game. First episode of 2020 here. We're excited to get things going for a new year and what is sure to be a memorable year in gaming. I'm Josiah Leroy, and with me, my co-host, my long-lost co-host, Mr. Jeff Pavlak.
It's been a while. Good to be back.
It's good to have you back.
Good to be back.
So we did not record earlier this month, as we typically do, just scheduling. And then in December, for that episode, it was me and John. Jeff was feeling a little bit under the weather, so unfortunately, we had to do one without him. But we're back. It's a new year, and we're excited to talk gaming. We've got a lot to get to in today's episode, and we'll start, as always, with what is in your system. I've got a lot going on, so I'm going to actually defer it to you, Jeff. What have you been playing since the start of the new year here?
I'm trying to play catch-up right now. There's really nothing brand new immediately coming out that I feel like I need to grab, so I'm trying to get through my backlog, which is just as gigantic as yours. One thing I finally started was Dragon Quest Builders 2 for Switch. I actually bought that when it first came out back in July. Did not open the packaging until a couple weeks ago.
Really?
I just never had a chance to get to the game. It came out shortly before Fire Emblem Three Houses, and that took up so much of my time during the summer. It was not too long after Super Mario Maker 2. I was playing that all summer as well. So I just wasn't able to get to this game for all of 2019, but I said, as soon as January rolls around, I'll finally get to that. So I've been playing through that now, taking my time with it. A nice slow experience. It's a building sim, also a lot of Japanese RPG elements in there. So I'm not rushing through it, taking my time with that. Otherwise, I'm always playing Mario Kart. Tetris 99 gets real addictive very quick.
Yeah. A lot of my friends on PlayStation Network.
Got to get ready for the new DLC coming out in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, so I jump back into that just to stay sharp. New character, Byleth from Fire Emblem Three Houses releases next week. So just trying to catch up on some things that were lingering or just sitting around for a while.
Well, I've got quite the list here myself. It's funny. We'll get to it later in the show. Today's show will be about the 10 most anticipated games of 2020. And a few games on that list have recently been delayed. There's most games actually on that list probably now. We'll go by one, but they have been delayed.
They hit you when you least expect it.
Miraculously, one of them's already out, so we don't have to worry about a delay there. But those delays have kind of given me a little bit more time in my gaming plate to get some of these games off of my backlog, which we'll get to momentarily. But anyway, replayed The Last of Us. First time I played The Last of Us Remastered on PS4. When that game came out, I played it right at launch. It didn't hit me like it did this time. Like, I always felt like there was something wrong with me because I love Naughty Dog.
Yeah.
I love their storytelling ability, everything, even down to the dynamic of how their games play out. And The Last of Us, I always liked it, but I always felt guilty for not loving it. Well, I'm happy to say I love it now.
I'm still in the like it category.
It made a
Sorry.
huge... That's fine. It's fine because I just recently came to the dark side. It's funny like how having that second playthrough really made a big difference to me. It allowed me to really just take my time with it, go through it, even though I played it in just a few days' time. John Fick said he beat it in one night once.
That sounds
one sitting.
You can do that. I mean, it's not a super long game.
No, but
still, don't get me wrong. It still takes a lot of time, but it's not, completely out of the question.
No, it's not crazy. But I played through everything, and I remember Colin Moriarty back in the day when he was back on IGN. He said, whereas Uncharted is a big juicy hamburger, you got to dive right in. The Last of Us is a steak. It's something to be savored. And I was like, that is a wonderful analogy.
That is probably, good way to describe it.
That's how it is. And man, I got so crazy with looting and looking for everything I could. And I was so much better this time around because I took my time with it. And I wasn't fresh off of the heels of playing probably Uncharted 3 at the time. So, also played the Left Behind DLC. That is some fantastic DLC. One of the best I've ever played. For as far as DLC goes.
Do you think John had that in his playthrough when he beat it all in one day?
Probably not. He could have, because that's only about I was 2.5 hours for me.
Yeah.
So it was good, but you get more Ellie, and that's always a good thing. So that is a really nice, probably prelude into The Last of Us Part 2 a little bit. And it's funny because there's so many Last of Us fans that have not played that DLC. And that, I think, is a fairly important DLC to play. But I'm not going to spoil anything. You got to play it for yourself. Next game on my list, I've just got 2 more here. Resident Evil 2. So we've talked about it many a time. I finally got a good Resident Evil experience.
Yeah, now you know why people love the franchise so much. You got at least one taste of it.
I didn't have my doubts, but oh my gosh! The only, if you didn't listen to past episodes of Geeks Got Game, the only one I've ever played in the series is Resident Evil 6. Can you imagine like starting with that?
If you're listening, I am giving the biggest thumbs down possible right now.
Just awful, absolutely awful. I remember playing. I played the one campaign. I don't even remember who I played as in Resident Evil 6, and I remember texting Jeff, kind of just feeling guilty and being like, "Hey, I don't have to finish any of these other campaigns, do I?" And
nope.
No.
Throw it in the fire.
So, yeah, I'm happy to say that Resident Evil 2, last year's remake, played it for PS4. It is absolutely gorgeous. My gosh, and it just looks unbelievable.
It's one of the best remakes ever. I think there's
Hands
no
down.
question about that. It is one of the greatest remakes in video games ever made.
It looks amazing. It plays beautifully. I played as Claire. I did Claire's run through, and it is such a good story. It is, to me, and I'm sure a lot of people would agree, and again, I'm new to the party, but the epitome of survival horror in video games. It really is. Same thing with Last of Us. I alluded like there is no tomorrow. Yeah, usually that's not me.
There are some similarities between this remake of Resident Evil 2 and the Last of Us game design. I can definitely see that.
There are.
I think about it.
Your ammo is scarce.
Yeah.
You've got to be very precise. You've got to be calculated. Sometimes you got to run. You got to be stealthy. Sometimes there's no shortage to your options in terms of discovery.
Interesting comparison. I like that, actually.
Another weird comparison, and you might roll your eyes, but particularly the first probably quarter or first third of the game when you are in the police station, like the actual police station, not underground, it reminded me of why I fell in love with Arkham Asylum, because it was this contained, haunting, just this dark place that was up for discovery. And a lot of the story was told through what you found.
And you're kind of trapped in there, can't escape necessarily.
Right.
Yeah,
and
I hear
eventually you branch out into the world.
Yeah.
But it's not right away.
Right.
And it's funny that I think of The Last of Us and Arkham as 2 games that it kind of ties to, because those games may have been inspired back in the day.
Maybe,
by original Resident Evil 2.
Sure.
So I know Seth was really happy that I love that one so much, like a proud parent.
Right, yeah.
And the other one I've talked about for ages that I haven't played, but I finally played Rage 2. So Black Friday was on sale, $14.99. Went to Xbox Game Pass right after that, but that's okay. If you have Game Pass, go play it. It's exactly what I thought it would be. It was a blast. It's not a game of the year by any means, but it's just a lot of fun. It gets repetitive fairly quick, unfortunately. However, I got to say, other open world games could take a lesson from it, and its main story is only about 10 to 11 hours. I didn't feel like I was grinding unnecessarily. I didn't feel like I was at a disadvantage for not leveling up certain weapons or my health. It just was a good blend. But you could play it as long as you want still.
See, maybe this is my unfamiliarity with the game talking, but when I first think of Rage 2, I think of first-person shooter more so than like open-world action-adventure game. So when I hear 10 to 11 hours for that, I think, okay, that's actually a pretty decent length for a campaign. But obviously this is not. This is closer to maybe Fallout than Call of Duty, maybe?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yes, no doubt about it.
I did not play as Rage 2, so that's why I'm
I would say
a little ignorant of it, apparently.
So I always made the Doom comparison in terms of gameplay.
Yeah.
So how fast and how crazy in your face Doom is, Rage definitely has that.
I see. Okay.
In terms of campaign, 10 to 11 hours, it's how you want to play it, really.
Right, yeah.
I wanted to play this and just go through the story. I actually did a fair amount of side stuff in there, so maybe this campaign is a little shorter than that, maybe closer to 8 or 9 hours. But there's a really good map, different regions that you can visit, and a bunch of different weapons that are just, no pun intended, a blast to play with. So Rage 2, like I said, $15 is a pretty good deal. But go play it if you're on Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, because that's a good one for sure. Moving on to our next segment, we actually introduced this last episode of Geeks Got Game. It's something called Backlogged. So with the new generation of systems finding their way to market later this year, we thought odds are, with the gamers that we are, we've got a lot of games either sitting on our shelf or our digital storage that we just haven't gotten around to yet.
And we do.
So
we absolutely do.
We're limiting it for the time being to just one game. Last month I mentioned Fallout 4. Speaking of unwrapped games, that is wrapped on my shelf. Haven't played it yet. I intend to. I just haven't gotten there yet. So I'll let you go first, Jeff. What's a game that is backlogged for you right now that you just haven't gotten to, but you own? Or maybe you don't own, and you're going to at some point.
Yeah, I did. I don't own it, but I am going to get to it someday because I was so excited for it when it first came out. Daemon X Machina, that it was a new mecha action game that released middle of September of last year, and it just got caught right in the whirlwind of all the releases that were hitting the Switch at the end of August and throughout September. I was playing Astral Chain at that time. The Link's Awakening remake came out right after it, I think a week after it. Dragon Quest XI, the definitive edition, came out 2 weeks after that then. So I just never had a chance to get to it at the time, and I really wanted to because for as long as it had been hyped up, it was revealed at actually E3 2018. I was always excited for it. I love mecha action games. I'm a huge Gundam and Macross fan. I just never got around to it though because I had so much else playing in September. So maybe someday. Whenever I have the time.
A little bit surprised you didn't get to that one, but
no, just didn't have the time for it.
Not surprised from the standpoint of how stacked your August/September was from a gaming standpoint. Yeah. So there was a lot going on. For me,
I got another one.
Let's do it.
Luigi's Mansion 3.
Oh no!
I had to miss that one too.
Well, you're welcome to borrow it.
Right, yeah, and I'm pretty. Yeah, we could.
Which is something I've always wanted to do.
Yep, I can't believe I forgot about that. But yep, Luigi's Mansion 3
was one of my favorite games of 2019.
It looked like so much fun.
It was so much fun.
I just couldn't get to it.
That's okay. It was one of my 3 that I kind of pegged that I wanted to play. It was Call of Duty. It was that and Jedi Fallen Order, of course.
Man, what a dichotomy of games there.
I know. I'm very diverse when it comes to gaming. I've got your bro first-person shooter, in COD, which we saw took up 6 out of the 10 spots for the top 10 selling games of the decade.
Yeah, Call of Duty.
It was Call of Duty, GTA was in there, Red Dead Redemption was in there.
I mean, GTA 5 was not surprisingly number 1.
No, but Red Dead Redemption 2 was a little bit surprising to me, only in the fact that it came out so late.
Hell yeah.
And when I say that, all the other games had time to build up throughout the years from 2010 on. This one came out 2 years ago.
GTA 5 has sold more copies than some countries have people.
It's very true.
I would actually love to see a comparison of GTA 5's total sales to countries worldwide by population.
Just throw it in like a population counter.
Yeah, it's got to have more than,
it's the biggest selling bit of entertainment ever. So you're talking music albums, movies, video games.
I would love to see
books
that statistic.
Even. That's up there. That's unbelievable.
I might put that together if no one else has yet.
You really should, and that would make for a nice Reddit post for you.
Right.
So backlogs for me, I'm going to mention one game. Another one in its wrapper, but not so old. Assassin's Creed Odyssey. I did not love Origins. I was one of the
you did not.
few people in the world who did not love Origins, and I'm a longtime Assassin's Creed fan. So Odyssey really seemed like it took a lot from Origins without having played Odyssey and made it a lot better. It is more RPG than any Assassin's Creed game appears to be, and the whole thing with the story, the setting, and the ability to play as Cassandra really spoke to me. So that is a game I'm going to dive into, of course. I'd like to say soon. With some of the delays that came recently, I think I've got a little more time now. However, I'm about to dive into Bloodborne for the first time.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so my next 2 games, ready? I may have to mix it up a bit. I don't know if I can play these side by side.
I'm so pumped that you're picking Bloodborne.
Oh, yes. I loaded it last night.
Nice.
Bloodborne.
Yep.
And Sekiro.
Very
so
good.
I've got a lot on my plate there, but I want to beat them before
Excellent choices.
March 11th. That's my first game of 2020, and it's Ori.
Gnarly.
So
Gnarly.
between Ori and Doom. We want to hear from you, the community. What is a game in your backlog? Or give us a list. What are some games you just haven't gotten to but want to or even possibly own? Drop us a comment at facebook.com/the Geekiverse and get in our community discussion there. This is not something I put on our itinerary, but I wanted to ask anyway because it just kind of hit me. But we'll maybe use this as a community question. Was there a game or a series that did not find its way to this generation for PlayStation 4 or Xbox One specifically that you were disappointed it didn't?
Right.
My answer that I wouldn't say disappointed, but I think I would have liked to have seen a reboot of some sort was Dead Space.
Right.
We got nothing, not even a remaster, which is a little bit odd.
Yeah.
We didn't get a Dead Space trilogy collection, and I know Dead Space 3 was not super well received. Understandably so.
Still a good game, though.
It got away from what made 1 and 2 so awesome.
It did.
But it's still a good game, like you said.
Yeah. And the reason why we haven't seen that is apparently EA was not fond of the sales for that. But that was a case where...
That sounded like partially EA's fault, though.
No, exactly. Because on paper, the sales were fine. I think it sold, between 1 to 2 million, something like that.
I believe it did.
But the production costs of some games nowadays are just astronomical. It's absurd how expensive how expensive it is to develop some of these AAA games, and it's like you can't necessarily expect every game to sell 5 million copies. I mean, Dead Space is not necessarily going to be that mainstream juggernaut.
Man,
because most franchises aren't. That's not a knock against Dead Space. That's the case for the vast majority of properties.
With playing Resident Evil 2 here in the last few weeks, it got me to thinking about like my favorite horror games ever. Resident Evil 2 is up there. Like I can't speak enough to it. And I go back to that original Dead Space.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I love 2 as well. 2 was awesome. But
yeah.
I probably tip the hat to 1 in terms of atmosphere.
Oh, 100%.
Like, unbelievable.
That was probably the first big survival horror game to come out following Resident Evil 4, because Resident Evil 5 was a big departure in terms of tone. It was much more action adventure, much more blockbuster kind of action than the good blend of horror and action that Resident Evil 4 had. But then Dead Space came in, and I mean, it really had some just crippling atmosphere and dread. The survival horror elements with your weapons, not being able to really pause the game whenever you were cycling through menus. It was it was just always in real time. You beat the game with the weakest weapon possible somehow. We always joke about that.
My biggest badge in gaming.
Explain that if someone hasn't heard this before on the podcast.
I didn't change weapons the entire time in Dead Space. I didn't know it was an achievement until I got it.
The plasma cutter.
Plasma cutter. I used it all throughout the game, including the end boss, which I don't believe I died once for. But I did not play in the easiest setting. I typically play games on normal or medium, whatever it lines up to be. So I Dead Space, man, that's the way I feel about Resident Evil 2 is how I last felt about a game going back to Dead Space, just specifically. But I think about also, I loved Until Dawn. That was another horror game probably one of my favorites. And then I don't know if we count Telltale's The Walking Dead or not, but that's always got a special place in my heart. So is there a series for you off the top of your head that comes to mind?
Well, yeah, at this point, Bayonetta, because when the heck is Bayonetta 3 coming? Sorry.
Look, he's just like me with the next Arkham game.
Sorry.
What's going on with that, by the way?
Arkham or Bayonetta? Which one? Because both of them are
this guy fired up here.
Rustling my jimmies.
Don't rustle his jimmies, folks.
Well, wait, didn't we just get the logo or something for the most recent, for the upcoming Batman game?
Yes, but that's exactly how it's exactly what we know. Did we get the logo or something?
Okay, obviously, yeah.
That's what it is.
I see.
We think it's the logo for the new Arkham game. What a weird tease, going all the way back to September now. They're just, I don't know. It's going to come out in October, just like Arkham Origins did, right before the new generation. I want it, though. I know I want it. It's like a drug. I'm addicted.
Yeah, no,
It's a lot. It's not even Rocksteady.
Yeah,
what does Rocksteady do? So we know Rocksteady's working on a next-gen game at this point.
Yeah. I mean,
Bayonetta,
that's the thing. But also Bayonetta, what the heck is going on at Platinum Games with that?
So Yeah, that's weird, right? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. We got Astral Chain from them, and I was very happy with that, but I want Bayonetta 3 already.
Me too, and I haven't even played the first two.
You're right.
I looked at my Xbox library because I have so many games from Games with Gold.
You just want it to come out so that my heart rate goes down to a normal level.
Yes, I care about you.
You're right.
But I have the original Bayonetta for 360.
Yeah.
I didn't even realize it was in my library. It must have been a game of the month at one point for Games with Gold.
10 years old now. We'll mention that later in another segment.
Yeah,
10 years old now, amazingly.
Well, why don't we jump into that here? We'll go on to. Well, no.
No.
We'll hold that thought for one.
We got it.
We'll do notable releases.
I was going to stop you if you didn't stop yourself.
Thanks. I was going a little too far ahead there. Notable releases for the month of February. As we get into February here, just a few days left in January. What is a game maybe that you've got circled or highlighted on the calendar? We'll chronicle just a few of those here. But Jeff, what's one that's got your eye here?
I might check out Devil May Cry 3, the special edition coming out for Switch. That one's just got some humor surrounding it because everybody was convinced that the 5th DLC character for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate was going to be Dante. And I mean, this was even leading up to the day of the announcement for that character. And then when the Nintendo Direct aired, it did not turn out to be Dante. It turned out to be another Fire Emblem character, and there was so much backlash against it. Because,
don't you hate to see that?
People were so mad. And Dante would have been really cool to see in Super Smash Bros.
Yeah, for sure.
I think he would have fit in perfectly with that, but it was not meant to be.
Is what it is at this point.
Yeah.
Kind of funny that there's a little subtle irony to it.
I mean, every character had been a third-party character so far. We hadn't had a Capcom representative. You know the what do you call it? The special edition of Devil May Cry 3 is finally coming to a Nintendo console. All the chips seem like they were there, man.
Would you believe I've never played a Devil May Cry?
They're very good games. I reckon. Well, the first and third one, and then the second one was kind of a disappointment back in the day. But 1, 3, 4, and then 5 most recently was outstanding.
And 5
all of them are very good
is
games.
on Xbox Game Pass right now.
I was about to be surprised by that, but then I realized that is almost a year old now because it came out spring of last year. I forget that it's 2020 and that 2019 is behind us.
I could say it every episode here. What a deal Game Pass Ultimate is.
It really, yeah.
Like, go just try it. And that's how they get you, by the way.
But, right.
Try it. But give it a shot.
Yeah.
I had my eye on that as well. Devil May Cry 3 Special Edition for Switch because I'm always looking for more games for my Switch. I just love it.
Right.
The appeal to play on a handheld is something just that I always wanted with my Vita and never got quite to the level that we have on Switch.
Right.
So there's... Speaking of Switch, I did forget to mention I've been playing a lot of Star Wars Pinball.
Ah, yes.
That came out in the fall. That is awesome.
Yeah, that's a fun game.
FX Pinball, but all Star Wars tables, so it spans all the movies. We don't have any Episode 9 yet. I imagine we'll get DLC. But everything, Solo, Rogue One, all the Skywalker films, Clone Wars, and Rebels.
That's awesome.
It's pretty great.
Switch is so good for indie games, man. It has such a great library of smaller titles like that.
Oh my gosh. Oh, it's funny because I remember like just the first year of the Switch, like it was like, all right, the library's kind of there as with any first year console, and then it just exploded in year 2, and we're thousands of games in. I feel like at this point, Life is Strange 2. You can get the complete season of that. PS4, Xbox One, PC on February 4th. I'm not a fan of that. I wanted to be so bad, but I played the first episode and nope, wasn't for me. I may circle back though because John told me to get past the first episode, so I don't know, if that'll be a thing for me. Zombie Army 4 has been promoted heavily on Xbox One. I've been seeing the ads for that. Yakuza 5 is a big title on PS4 coming February 11th.
That's been out in Japan for like a year, I think.
I think so.
I think it's just the translation that took a while.
I was kind of like, hey, what? I thought this was out already. Yeah. Street Fighter V Champion Edition, that's a big deal. That's coming out on PS4 and PC on the 14th. Darksiders Genesis. This kind of fell under the radar a bit.
Yeah, big time, actually.
Like, the Darksiders game used to be a little bit more of a big deal than this.
Well, part of the problem was the THQ situation.
That's true.
I mean, hey, once the pillar on that fell, everything underneath it kind of got crushed, unfortunately. Darksiders along with it.
The nice thing here is that day one we're getting a Switch release alongside Xbox One and PS4.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
So hopefully that holds true. Also on February 14th, which is a busy day here, we see Street Fighter Darksiders. Also Dreams, which is hotly anticipated for a lot of PS4.
If you don't have a Valentine that day, look, there's plenty of games to play.
You can build one in Dreams, folks. Oh, man. I'll see myself out. February 25th, DLC for Kingdom Hearts 3. Remind is just coming to Xbox One. I imagine that's just a timed exclusive.
I'll just say, what's the story behind that if it's just Xbox One?
Yeah, I tried to look up the synopsis and I was even confused because y'all know my feelings on Kingdom Hearts 3. I enjoyed it, but
No. I mean, why is it only on Xbox One? I don't mean what's the premise for the DLC.
It's got to be a timed exclusive.
Okay, yeah.
That's the only thing I can think of. Let's see, Mega Man Zero ZX Legacy Collection on February 25th, and that's probably it for me for the month here.
I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Fire Emblem Three Houses DLC coming out February 13th. Whole new story, whole new house you can play through and use as your students and your soldiers. I wanted to go back to Fire Emblem Three Houses since I beat it over the summer. I just played through only one leg of the story, but I want to go back and play through a different chapter of it. Find another 60 hours to beat that somehow.
Yeah.
And now there's DLC, no less, a whole new story to play through. So,
and a game that appeared on our best games of 2019 list.
I was very happy to see it get on there. It absolutely deserved it. I loved that game.
Very, very nice lists overall.
We do have a good list of best 2019 games.
You can check that out right now at thegeekiverse.com.
It's up.
Moving on, we'll go to honoring the past here. So this segment, typically, we will go back 10 and 20 years and look at video game releases in the same month. So we're going to be looking at January and February of the year 2000 and the year 2010 and just kind of reminiscing about some of the games that released or debuted those months. It was kind of a fun segment we started last year, and we really enjoyed it because 2009 was really good. I think 2010 is very impressive. We'll find out early on here. But going back to the year 2000, some very notable games. Not a lot of them, but some pretty notable ones right off the bat here. First up that we see jump off the list is Crazy Taxi. So yes, it was in arcades prior to that, 99, right?
Yeah.
However, it made its debut on systems with Dreamcast. So Crazy Taxi, I feel like that was kind of like the flagship, right? Like you always associated that with Dreamcast.
That or Sonic, one of the two.
Sure.
Yeah, either one of the two. I mean, I didn't have a Dreamcast, so I didn't play this until years later. I think it was re-released on all the systems.
I don't know that I ever played a Dreamcast, actually, outside of like in a Kmart or like a Toys R Us.
The old demos that they used to have.
Yeah, I don't think I ever actually played one. Crazy Taxi, of course, at arcades. You know, I've definitely taken part there, but that's a big title for sure.
Mm-hmm.
You would have mentioned as well, January 24th, same day, Mario Party 2.
Yep.
And 64.
My favorite Mario Party ever made. I am not kidding when I say this. I still occasionally play that game to this day. Me and my older brother, we have two childhood friends who grew up down the street from us. We used to play that game religiously. Anytime they came over to our house, we would play it. So like during the summer when we were all off from school, we're playing that thing 3 to 4 times a week. It was just such a staple of our childhood. So from time to time, whenever I see my older brother, we still play that, or whenever we see our two friends who we've grown up with, we jump in there and we're screaming and yelling at each other just like when we were kids again. But that game is such a special place in my heart from what it meant to me when I was younger.
No, that's what makes gaming special to a degree, right?
Yep.
It's those memories. It's those, playing Halo LAN parties, like things like that. It's very special.
Do you remember how I got my copy of Mario Galaxy signed by Charles Martinet?
Yeah.
The voice actor for Mario. If I ever meet him again, I want him to sign my copy of Mario Party 2 because I have the original cardboard box that came with the N64 game. I love how games used to come in those boxes back in the day.
Oh, for sure.
N64. I really miss those.
I am still, speaking of N64, I'm waiting on my copy of, I got the collector's edition of the re-release of Shadows of the Empire.
Nice.
Yeah. So it
Dash Rendar, man.
Yeah. Purple cartridge. Comes in one of those, oh my gosh, Hasbro action figure cases. and it's
yeah.
it's resealable. So it's from Limited
That's
Run
so
Games.
cool. That is so cool.
Yeah, I cannot wait to get that.
Limited Run is such a great concept.
They are awesome.
Yeah,
they're teasing that they inked a really, really like their biggest deal ever, and I can't fathom what that would be.
Good for them.
Last summer they had a bunch of Star Wars releases that were just super thrilling. I got Bounty Hunter on PS4 and Racer's Revenge on PS4.
And it's been great for your Star Wars collection.
Yeah, it really has. It's been awesome. So kudos to those guys. Anything else for 2000 that you wanted to mention? Oh, we want to jump into February while we got it up here.
Sure.
So we talked about Resident Evil. I don't know if this is significant at all. Resident Evil Code Veronica?
Yeah, because that's really, I mean, that was Resident Evil 4 before Resident Evil 4 came out. What I mean is that was the fourth big Resident Evil game. It just didn't have the number in the title.
Okay.
That was a really cool one. It's not one of the better known ones because the original 2 and 3 are just so iconic. But Code Veronica was a very good game. Kind of got away from the fixed camera angles and like the pre-rendered backgrounds. Definitely heightened the action a little bit. But that was a really good one. I like the advancements that it made for the game design. Had a pretty cool story involving Claire, Chris Redfield, and then Wesker was heavily involved in it. But that and part of the other reason why it's not quite as well known is because it originally released on Dreamcast. It wasn't for PlayStation 2 or PlayStation, GameCube, what have you back in the day. It was originally just a Dreamcast game. So it kind of flew under the radar. That's one I hope someday gets a remake in the same vein as Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 3 is about to get.
Oh, that's super exciting. I feel like I get to relive all these because I didn't go through them the first time.
Yeah.
Even though they are, built from the ground up. But going through, like I said, Resident Evil 2, I really can't speak enough to it. For February 2000, there was Dead or Alive 2. That's a fairly prominent gaming series. Need for Speed Porsche Unleashed, I don't know really anything about. That came out on PlayStation 1. And also Rayman 2, The Great Escape. So that's a big deal.
Oh, yeah, totally.
My gosh. Same day as Rayman 2, we got Pokemon Stadium.
That was a huge deal back in the day.
I was going to say, I never played this, but I remember seeing it everywhere.
I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that was the first time we saw any kind of Pokemon game on a home console.
Might have been.
And really, that was one of the earliest Pokemon games in general because up to that point, you really only just had Pokemon Red, Blue, and maybe Yellow. So the Pokemon franchise, especially video games, was very young at the time. But this was the first time you got to see any kind of 3D renderings of the Pokemon. It was just the spectacle of it back in the day to see Charizard and Blastoise on your TV was something really cool, and being able to battle them with that because not everybody had the link cable to battle on your Game Boys back in the day. This was long before there was any kind of Wi-Fi connection, any kind of online connection, so you weren't able to do much competitive play without those accessories or without Pokemon Stadium or what have you. So that was really fun back in the day. It's the kind of game that you really wouldn't see anymore nowadays because online infrastructure has made its concept basically obsolete. It's like, what would be the point of Pokemon Stadium when we can already battle just between Pokemon Sword and Shield on our Switches? Like, there's no need for it anymore.
Right. Yeah, it's different.
Yeah.
I remember seeing that everywhere for sure. That was a big deal. Moving forward, jumping to the year 2010. So, like you said, a lot happened this year. We got Xbox 360 Slim, middle of the year. We'll look at some January and February releases here. It's funny as we look over time, and this was a theme last year, how there were so few releases that would come out in really the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
And now it's just like every day is just full of it.
Although apparently 2010 was loaded for the beginning of the year.
It's kind of amazing.
I was looking over this list before. There was a lot that came out in January and February back then.
So ironically, two franchises we've talked about already.
Yep.
Bayonetta and Darksiders, both debuting on January 5th.
Same day.
PS3, Xbox 360.
Yep.
Kind of amazing.
Really.
And it's always fun looking back and seeing games that ended up launching franchises and how close they were to releasing to each other.
Yeah.
Whether it was on the same day or the same week. But there we go.
Yep.
Kind of amazing. Assassin's Creed 2 Discovery, I'm only mentioning that because that was an offshoot of Assassin's Creed 2. This was a downloadable game on your iPhone or your tablet.
So that was a mobile game?
Yeah.
Ah.
I never played it, but I remember when it came out, And this was almost like the beginning of the stem of everything Assassin's Creed under that huge umbrella of media releases.
I see.
January 12th, Army of Two, the 40th day. Not a great game necessarily, but one that had legs. I always remember at GameStop, that was a game that always came up, believe it or not. Kind of going through the list here. Silent Hill.
There's a lot, man.
Shattered Memories.
That was the PS2 PSP re-release. It originally came out on the Wii. That was a really cool game. You talk about psychological horror at its finest. That game was messed up.
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
Yeah, that one is really, really creepy.
Man, I was really looking forward to playing Silent Hills.
Yeah, right. Did you see that hack recently that the ghost is following you the entire time?
No.
Someone hacked it, and they found out that the ghost is like basically behind you the entire time.
Oh my gosh.
From the first person perspective, which you can't see because, obviously you only have that one perspective, but someone managed to take the camera beyond the avatar.
Woo!
And the ghost is basically following you through the house the entire time.
Yow.
That is one of the worst, what if stories of all time in video games. What would that game have been like if it had gotten, to see, to be fully realized?
That sucks, man.
Yeah, man,
we're right
right?
to that one. Maybe we'll never get it.
No, probably not, unfortunately.
January 26th, few titles here we want to mention.
This is a
but
big day.
One of my favorite games of all time, Mass Effect 2, debuting on Xbox 360 and Windows. And I believe it was a timed exclusive for 360 because I remember they were not originally all on PS3 at first. Later, they re-released Mass Effect 1 and 2 on PS3.
Yeah.
I don't remember how far after it came out. But anyway, man, that was a game changer for science fiction in terms of storytelling in video games.
Would you say that's your favorite Mass Effect?
I think so.
Or the best, at least?
I would say so. I honestly, 1 is very good.
Yeah.
And it's got its own identity. 2 was like the perfect storm of everything.
Right.
3 is actually outstanding as well. Obviously, we can talk about the ending controversy here in a different light, but that notwithstanding, remarkable consistency across the series.
Yeah.
And 1 could have been looked at as a little bit clunky in comparison to Mass Effect 2, but not a lot.
Yeah.
But I remember, again, I worked at GameStop, and I had read before Mass Effect 3 came out that they kind of build them as movies have Star Wars, TV has Star Trek, gaming has Mass Effect, and I was sold. I was like, I need to play this. And our friend Tony Fasanella was a huge Mass Effect fan, and he's like, dude, you got to get into it. So I bought Mass Effect 1 and 2 like New Year's, the year that Mass Effect 3 was coming out, that March. And I rifled through 1 and 2, but without like skipping an inch of extra gameplay. Like I played through every side quest I possibly could. I can't believe how much of an awesome experience that was from an RPG standpoint. Coming from someone who typically likes to go from point A to B and play my story.
All right.
And I don't typically love role-playing games, but man, do yourself a favor and go back and play these before we get too much further away from them, because as time goes on, you won't appreciate them as much. There's certain games I've missed and I go back to, and I know I'm not appreciating it because I didn't appreciate it in the era that it came out in. So we've moved past it in terms of quality. But those games were awesome. Andromeda obviously had its issues, but the Mass Effect 2 is one of my favorite games ever. Same day, we get MAG, which was a PS3 exclusive that we could play.
Oh, yeah.
256 players, we said earlier?
Yeah, 256 players concurrently.
Oh my gosh.
And
so
like
funny.
basically on the same map.
It's hilarious how like we think like it was a huge deal when Battlefield is like 64 players. Well, there was a time,
Right.
kids, when we could do 256. Anyway, I think Seth played it. I feel like that's why we talked about it before.
I think that was probably it, because that was PlayStation 3 exclusive.
No More Heroes 2.
Ah, yes.
So we're going to talk about a little bit No More Heroes in a bit.
Right.
But let's reminisce here quickly about the second game.
Yeah, it was so cool that that this is coming up now because No More Heroes 3, it's now 10 years since this last game came out. No More Heroes 3 was announced over the summer at Nintendo's E3 presentation, and it just blows my mind that it's been 10 years since this last one. No More Heroes 2 was a really good sequel. It was just as crazy, just as bonkers as the original. Gave you different, more weapons you could use in battle, just kind of up the insanity to a level that even the original didn't quite hit. But those were such cool games. I really look back on those fondly from the Wii. Two of the very few games that actually use motion control wisely, I would say. Because it didn't make it pervasive. It wasn't like you had to just waggle your way through combat mindlessly. You only use the motion control for finishing moves or for the height differential. So depending on what angle you held the Wii remote, you would be attacking at different angles, high, medium, low. So that was a great way to implement that. But I look back so fondly on the No More Heroes games. If I ever cut my hair again, I think I want to be Travis Touchdown for Halloween some year.
That would be perfect. What was the first system or the first game out on? The
Wii.
It was Wii also?
Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So they came out in relatively short order.
Yeah,
and we waited a long time.
I think the original one was 2008, and then obviously this one was 2010.
Gotcha.
They came out on the Wii because the director, Goichi Suda, he clearly didn't want to make a high budget action game like what you would need to have on 360 or PlayStation 3. So he went with the weaker hardware on the Switch, was able to use a little bit more stylized art direction. This was all cell shaded, looked like it was straight out of an anime. And then also he was able to use the motion control in there that, like I said before, was actually used wisely. It's one of the few cases where motion control, I would say, benefited the game.
And that's important.
Yeah.
For sure.
Because there weren't too many of those, at least not from third parties. Nintendo knew how to use motion control. Third parties didn't seem to get, or at least just didn't embrace it quite as much, which is understandable. I mean, it wasn't their hardware.
When it becomes a gimmick, that's a problem. Right?
Yeah.
So, we'll be talking about that shortly in our top 10 most anticipated games of the year. Kind of amazing. We'll jump on to February here of 2010, and it's so funny. There's a few games in here that jump off at me, and another one of my top 10 probably favorite games of all time is on this list. I didn't even realize.
Okay.
But we'll go down the list here. We may not have to go very far. February 9th, BioShock 2. So BioShock was recently in the news because we're getting a new one. Okay. A new BioShock game. Yeah. We talked about it last episode of Geeks Got Game. I actually just went back and purchased the BioShock collection for my Xbox One, which has all 3 games on there, because John yelled at me for not playing the Infinite DLC. And he's right.
Yeah.
I can't believe I didn't play it.
He was justified in yelling at you?
He was, absolutely. Okay. So I finally went and did it. It's funny, John and I have like this synergy when it comes to gaming. Like you and I have, I think, in some cases, pretty different tastes.
We do.
For our
there's
games.
no doubt about that.
But have like a pretty deep appreciation.
Yeah, no, we're both extremely passionate about games. We just like very different games.
Like, there's a trust level there. Like if I was like, what game should I buy for my Switch next?
Yeah.
You'd say it and I would get it.
Right.
Knowing what I like and what I may want to try that you like. John and I are the same gamer, which is not always good to always have the same taste. But what is nice is if he's discovered something or if I've discovered something and the other hasn't played it, we know the other will like it, which is really cool. So I'm probably going to just play BioShock 1 and Infinite with the DLC because 2 was a little bit less memorable. But no doubt, a highly anticipated game when it came out because BioShock, the original, was one of the most mind-blowing games of all time.
Yeah. With
the twist and the atmosphere and just Ken Levine's genius. Ken Levine did not work on BioShock 2. However, still an okay game. So I'd recommend playing it if you haven't. Same day, Dante's Inferno for PS3 and Xbox 360. Pretty well received, I would say.
Yeah, it was okay.
Let's see here. February 11th, Dragon Ball Origins 2. I don't know if you played that at all.
I did not get to that one, no.
Jumping down the list here, Tropico 3 for 360.
I know what game you're absolutely crazy to talk about soon.
Honestly, that's next on the list here. Yeah. February 23rd. I can't believe it came out the 23rd. I thought this was later in the year. But what do I know? Heavy Rain for PS3. Man. So, Quantic Dream, the makers of Beyond Two Souls and Detroit Become Human, and a game before Heavy Rain that I'm forgetting. That is very famous as well.
Fahrenheit?
Nope.
The Nomad Soul?
No, I'm missing one. There's definitely something else that I'm missing. Anyway, Heavy Rain.
All right, I'll take your word for it. Because that's all I can remember, too.
No, there's definitely something else that is not on there.
Okay.
Heavy Rain, 77 different possible endings for this game. Which
That's a few.
by today's standards is probably not insane, but these were different endings.
No, I still think 77 different endings is insane even for today.
Fair enough.
I don't think we're quite at the point yet where that's only 77 endings.
All right, maybe we're not there yet, but soon enough. I read about this game in PlayStation Magazine before it came out. I mean, this is, dating it a little bit. And I could not wait to get my hands on it. I played the demo. It is all... Yes?
I think I know what game you're thinking
Indigo
of.
Prophecy.
Yeah, it was
Yes.
Indigo Prophecy in North America.
That's why.
Fahrenheit was Indigo Prophecy in North America. That was it.
Indigo Prophecy was made by
It had
Quantic
it
Dream.
had the different names.
Yes, and you can get it on PlayStation Store, which is cool. But with the game itself, it was all about your decisions. And, Telltale has largely done this, or had largely done this in their games, like Walking Dead, for example. But this was different. This is a formula that it took uncomfortable topics from the real world and brought it into gaming and really made you think. And it was more about not shooting than shooting someone, which I remember David Cage talking about. Or just these brutal decisions. How far would you go to save your child was kind of the premise of the game. It was about this child napping origami killer who would kill his victims once basically the rain reached a certain amount of inches for a given week. And it was unbelievable from an emotional standpoint. I was engrossed in it. John and I actually talked last episode about games that we had spoiled for us. I had this game spoiled for me.
That's rough, man.
Despite its endings, there's one constant, and I had that spoiled for me. My own fault. I was looking at something online in terms of like a strategy guide that I shouldn't have, and I went too far. So
It happens, man.
I learned my lesson, but it did not ruin the game for me. I would say if you go in blind, it'll make the mystery all that much better. But Heavy Rain, you can get it on PS4. It originally was PS3. I cannot recommend it enough if you are into storytelling, if you're into a great murder mystery, anything like that. Go play it. You play as 4 main characters and all their revolving stories. The other thing is, if one of your 4 characters dies, that character has permadeath. They're done. The story goes on without them.
Right.
You could finish the games, theoretically, having killed off all 4 of your characters. You don't want to do that.
Right.
But it's kind of fun to think about that there were consequences to every action. So, yeah, what a month, man. So January to February there, we had Mass Effect 2
We had a lot of good stuff.
and Heavy Rain, which are 2 of my top games ever, which is funny to think of that they landed that close. Anything else before we move on to our final segment here?
I think we're good, man.
I think we're good, too. So,
I'm looking forward to going through this list.
yeah, me too here. We're going to briefly run down the list of the Geekiverse compiled at the end of year Geek Awards voting. So our staff gets together, we vote numerous categories. One of my favorite is our top 10 most anticipated games of the year. So these are the most anticipated games of 2020 as voted on by myself, Jeff Pavlak, John Fick, and Seth Zielinski. So we'll go through the list here. There's a little bit for everyone, honestly. It's kind of amazing to see, I guess, a little bit of everyone's tastes. There's no real surprise on the list, I would say. But we'll start off with the 10th game, and it's already out, actually.
Yeah.
So we're obviously a little late in getting to this. But Dragon Ball Z, how do I pronounce that?
Kakarot.
All right, that's where I was going to go. I didn't want to make a fool of myself.
Do you know who Goku is, right? The main character. That's that's basically his original name. Goku is his name when he gets to Earth. Kakarot was his name when he was on his home planet of with the Saiyans.
Very good to know.
Yeah.
Learn something new every day.
Right. Yeah. It's kind of like Vader and Anakin.
Yeah,
Think of it that way.
Yeah. See, you can if you can relate it to Star Wars,
Right.
you can make me understand anything. So this has, from what I understand and what I've been seeing out there, been getting some really nice coverage. Like people are really enjoying this game so far.
It's definitely a big step for Dragon Ball games, because this is, Dragon Ball games have traditionally been fighters. I would say the vast majority of Dragon Ball games have always been some kind of 2D or 3D fighter. This is going more into like RPG, especially JRPG territory, which it's been done before, but certainly not with the production values and the mainstream attention that this is getting. So I'm glad to see the Dragon Ball series trying something different for its video games, and it seems to be working out fine. It seems like it was a good experiment.
We got to play Jump Force again soon.
We do need to play Jump Force again, although that's a lot more than Dragon Ball. That's when you get into Yu Yu Hakusho, Rurouni Kenshin, Naruto.
There's a lot going on.
Yeah, there's a lot going on in that game.
That was so much fun. Number 9 on the list. So we finally got it here. He looks a little bit like James Gunn in that category, or this side.
We've talked about that before, yeah.
No More Heroes 3. We're finally getting it. When is this coming out, actually?
We don't have a release date. We just know 2020.
Okay. So
I was so pumped when that was shown off during Nintendo's Direct. I mean, there was so much from that Nintendo Direct that made me jump out of my chair, but this one was really cool. Because I didn't think we were ever going to get another traditional No More Heroes. I mean, it's 10 years since we had the last one. There was no sign of it coming back.
Well,
and then we got a just completely bonkers trailer at the Game Awards for this one. That was that really weird. Do you remember that really weird one with the kid and the alien?
Yep.
Apparently, that's the premise of the story. There's this kid who finds an alien. It's basically like E.T. He helps the alien get home. 20 years later, the alien comes back and has been a criminal this whole time, and he brings his species with him, and they want to take over the world by weaponizing society's love of superheroes. and that's the premise of the game. Then Travis has to fight these like weaponized superheroes instead of assassins.
It's so perfect, honestly.
It's ridiculous. I love it. Nothing could be more appropriate for this series.
The more off the wall, the better.
Oh yeah, exactly.
That makes for a fun game.
Yeah, I can't wait.
For off the wall stuff in gaming, I always appreciated the Saints Row series for that.
Yeah, that's another one. That's
more notably
just ridiculous.
Yeah, 3 and 4 did a good job of that. But it's nice that made our list.
I'm glad.
That's really nice.
I think my number 1 pick had something to do with that.
Yeah, possibly.
I definitely weighted that. Yeah,
a lot of weight when you vote like that.
Hey, because we don't know if Breath of the Wild 2 is coming out this year. Right. There's no guarantee of that.
What's funny is we do have. So Geekiverse has been around since 2014 now, and we do have a repeat for most anticipated game.
Yeah, I mean, it happens.
It was Red Dead Redemption 2. Got delayed. It had won the previous year's most anticipated game, so it carried over.
It's going to happen.
We all voted for it again. That's kind of funny.
Nothing's set in stone until that game hits store shelves.
Yeah, that's for sure. Number 8. This is a big one, and it's one on the list, maybe more than any other game that we know really nothing about.
Right.
It's Halo Infinite. Really, Halo 6. It's coming. I mean, think of it this way.
I love actual names more than numbers.
Me too.
I just want to interject that. I love that it's Halo Infinite instead of Halo 6.
My only thing is I wish they would finish it out.
Okay.
So maybe they will. So it was Halo 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, it was Combat Evolved, 2, 3, 4, and then 5 was Guardians. I would love for this to be Halo 6 Infinite.
Where do you put ODST in there?
It was Halo 3 ODST. So it was like...
that's right.
It was like Halo 3B, almost. Right.
I remembered it as just being Halo ODST, but you're right. It was Halo 3, wasn't it?
Very close. And then there was Reach as well, Halo Reach.
That's another one I forgot. Then... what was the real-time strategy one? Halo Wars?
Halo Wars, yeah.
Yeah.
And then there was the sequel. So
there was 2 of them, wasn't there?
I always think you should kind of finish it off. That's kind of a minute detail. So maybe one of the biggest launch games ever for a system. What comes to mind? Breath of the Wild.
Are you saying Halo Infinite is going to be?
Yes.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Yeah, Breath of the Wild is up there then.
The original Halo, and we didn't know it at the time.
No, we didn't know it at the time.
Launched,
but
Halo is the reason that Xbox is alive, right?
Yeah.
Like that.
No, that's why the brand is what it is. Absolutely.
It is truly the thing, the IP that sold systems for Microsoft.
Yeah.
And hopefully it's going to do the same for the Xbox Series X. it's super thrilling to know that we're getting a Halo on day one. It's just nostalgic in a way. But in terms of launch titles for systems, that's going to be one of the biggest ever. No doubt about it.
That Breath of the Wild, Super Mario 64 with N64. Trying to think of some others. I've mostly got Nintendo ones in my mind because those are the only systems I've ever bought in day one.
I think back to 360 and Xbox One.
Give me some Xbox ones.
Nothing that wasn't nothing super notable. I think Xbox One was one of the Forzas, and just by me saying one of the Forzas kind of speaks that it's not a huge launch title. But nothing that was like a killer app, I guess. So there was always a Call of Duty and a Battlefield day one, but those you can get them anywhere.
I did really like Resistance from PlayStation 3, and that's a franchise I wish would come back.
Yes, that was good.
Not an all-time great, but I would say in terms of launch titles, it's one of the better ones.
And for PS4, Infamous came out after. I don't think that was right away.
I don't think it was right away either.
That was a big one for me.
I think it was January or February of the following year.
Yeah, that makes sense. Unless you like Knack. Seth will probably argue that.
Well,
you know what is a good one?
What's
we're forgetting PSP, Uncharted Golden Abyss.
Yes.
Not one of the greatest
games I said, you got to give me some Sony and Microsoft ones because all I've got is Nintendo in my head.
Golden Abyss was a good title. I always wanted that to get ported over to PlayStation 4 or 3 back in the day, but never say never, I guess. Anyway, Halo Infinite, like I said, we don't know a ton about it. We got a trailer 2 years ago. I was sitting in the theater in LA when that happened, and that was bonkers.
That must have been cool.
Oh man, the rumble of the rhinoceros with just everything was great. Having Phil Spencer there. Anyway, that's, I gotta imagine, because people will debate to different degrees the quality of the most recent Halo games, 4 and 5 specifically.
Yeah.
I've loved them all the way through.
Yeah.
Even style changes. Infinite kind of sounds like it's going to be big, right? Like we don't know if
sprawling.
Does it mean kind of a little bit open world where like Gears 5 did that a little bit, where it took it in a non-linear direction for better or worse?
Right.
I don't know. Time will tell, but that is sealed my fate for buying an Xbox on day one. So I'm saving right now. Number 7, this is very high on the list for me. Lego Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga. I love the Lego games. Some of my most fun memories of growing up are playing the Lego Star Wars games. Lauren and I actually, it's like the first year we were dating, actually the original Xbox played Lego Star Wars. It was the prequels, so just episodes 1 through 3. We played it during the October storm.
It was love at first sight, huh?
That was it for me.
That's how you knew you were marrying this girl?
What did I just say? If you could relate anything to Star Wars, you're good to go with me.
That's true, yeah.
That was easy peasy, and Lauren found that out early. I am really stoked to finally be able to play Last Jedi Lego, because that's going to be a part of the game. It's all 9 episodic entries, so no Rogue One, no Solo. Gosh, I hope they bring those to DLC.
Yeah.
That's a topic for a different time. But we'll also obviously get Rise of Skywalker. That'll be awesome. Everything I hear from this is that they are revamping the formula. So even though open world has been a thing for a while, there will be worlds within worlds. So when you go to, let's say, episode 4, you'll get a version of Tatooine that you may not see in episode 6.
Okay.
That's kind of interesting. I don't know how specific that gets, but that's kind of what I've heard in some media coverage.
So the environments are going to change a little bit depending on the movie. It's adapting.
Exactly.
Interesting.
So you'll go through your typical stories. I also don't know if this is true or not, but I swore that they were going back to the non-verbal communication.
Kind of like the
or
the Charlie Brown,
so
parents' voice.
Lego Lord of the Rings was one of the first to take the movie dialogue and just undercut it under what the Legos were doing.
Yeah,
and it's good, but some of the charm of those original ones was that they weren't talking.
Yeah,
that they were kind of cute.
It's nonverbal communication more so.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens with that, but I would peg this comes out in the summer sometime. We don't have a release date yet, but I will be playing it right away. Lego Force Awakens was a blast, and I hope they took what they did with that and go off a little bit from that path for this one. Number 6 on the list. So we're talking about games that were delayed. Here we go. This was supposed to come out in November
yet another one.
and yet another one. Doom Eternal. So we unfortunately are not getting the Switch version on day one, but we are getting the game in March. So this will be my first purchased game of the year.
And that wasn't a terrible delay, at least, because what was it? November it was originally going to come out. So yeah, 4 months.
I could live with that.
Yeah, that's not too bad.
The other thing was, like I said, I was playing Jedi Fallen Order right around this time anyway.
Yeah.
So it was fine for me to get that delayed. I'm hoping for more of the same. I even wrote in our article, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
No, I'd perfectly fine if we get a very safe, conservative sequel with this.
All about it.
Although I was just stupidly impressed by the demo at this last E3. I think that the pace and just the movement, how fluid it is, it really looks outstanding for a first-person shooter. Although the last Doom already established that.
It was unbelievable. It's one of my favorite first-person shooters ever.
You just don't see first-person shooters play like that. It's so rare that they move with that kind of pace.
That tempo is incredible.
Right.
Rage 2 touched on it a bit. You've got to be, really up speed to be competitive. Doom is a whole new ball game. Cannot wait for that one. That's going to be a day one for me. Number 5, this one debuted E3 2018.
Yeah, because it was during.
It was during the weird presentation.
Yeah,
right?
where Resident Evil.
There.
Where actually Resident Evil 2 was first unveiled,
so that was
and then The Last of Us 2 had maybe not its first showing, but probably its longest and most in-depth demonstration.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, and I want to say Ghost of Tsushima was the first one that Sony showed that night. I could be wrong, but
it was Last of Us.
Okay.
I only know that because we moved from the church to
the lights were overhead or something like that. It was like the jar lights or something like that.
Yeah.
Right.
Check out my I vlogged from E3 2018, and the video's on our YouTube, youtube.com/thegeekiverse. And I took video footage inside the Microsoft Theater, but also inside where Sony had us for Last of Us Part 2. And then where we walked out to go into the next room for the rest of it. But first up was Ghost of Tsushima.
Yeah.
This game, man,
it's beautiful,
breathtaking.
Yeah,
I can't wait. I don't think I have a release date yet.
I don't believe we do either.
Or not really a window except for 2020.
Right.
So this very well could fall off
because it looks ambitious too. I mean, like it looks like they're trying to go full open world while also really making this combat and exploration something to remember. I really love the demonstration that we got a year and a half ago. Combat looks super precise. I've described this game as being as beautiful as it is brutal. When you're just exploring, it's gorgeous. The world is really impressive, set in 13th century Japan, but then the combat is just gnarly at times. So I'm excited to see what this one does.
And this is quite different from what we've seen from Sucker Punch.
That too, yeah.
So this is their first game since Infamous at the beginning of the PS4 generation. Right?
Yes. And I am really interested to see if this is entirely realistic or if this does dive into any supernatural kind of elements. Because so far we've just seen that it's, this main character fighting the Mongol army. But I wonder if they're going to include any kind of mystical or mythical elements in there, or if it's just grounded in realism. We don't know.
Relatively speaking, we haven't seen a ton on the game.
Right.
Like, there's a little bit of a theme on this list, right? Either delays or ambiguous release dates or not seeing a lot. But that was one that gripped from the beginning. It almost looked like very calculated combat.
Right. Yeah.
So we'll see what that
got
looks
a little
like.
bit of Assassin's Creed in it. Kind of has that.
Maybe a touch of the Souls.
Yeah, I was just
Soulsborne?
movement and parrying. Very timing is extremely important. It seems to be in it.
Yeah. I agree with that. PlayStation has dominated exclusives this generation when it comes to PlayStation and Xbox, and this looks like it's going to be one more of those. Days Gone was kind of one that fell off last year under the radar, but. Would you bet that this is a PS5 game? Or maybe cross-generational?
I'm going to say they still try and stick with PS4. I mean, they already have shown the box art for it. Have you seen that? Let me pull this up real quick. And if you're listening and you have the chance, just search the box art for Ghost of Tsushima. It is one of the most impressive pieces of art I've ever seen for a Vinegar.
I did not realize that was a thing.
Hold on.
So, what they're doing... I would imagine what they're doing with like Last of Us. So Last of Us came off as the swan song for the PS3. Last of Us Part 2
Yes, that's what I think they're going for with
is
it.
right at the end of the PS4 generation, but I wouldn't be shocked if next year we got a PS5 remastered.
There.
Let's take a look at this.
That is the box art for it.
Oh, man, I got goosebumps right now.
Like I said, folks, if you can Google search it real quick, it is fabulous. It is a fabulous piece of art.
So this game is clearly high on atmosphere.
Yeah.
It's important to the game, as we saw in the trailer and as you saw in the E3 presentation. Seriously, watch my video. I filmed as I was walking in, and the screen that Sony's got, this super wide cut screen across the whole room, just gorgeous. We also got Control at that presentation. People don't remember.
Was that the fourth game that it was? Because I remember it was like only 4 or 5 games that they showed.
Sony wanted to do 4 first-party things. Control was not that, but it was Last of Us, Ghost, Spider-Man, I forget.
That's what it was. Yeah, Spider-Man.
God of War was already out.
Right.
Detroit was already out, so I don't remember what the other one was. But
yeah. I mean, hey, quality over quantity, I guess, because all of those games were big hits.
Resident Evil 2 came out of nowhere, right?
We didn't. Yeah, we had no idea at that time. Because I remember when we were watching that trailer, it starts with like the rat just running across the screen. And I think it was Sam with us. Andrew might have been with us because we were at home. We weren't with you in Los Angeles at the actual conference, and we had no idea what the game was. I was sitting there, just trying, racking my mind. What could this possibly be? That was a big surprise, and that was one of the cooler.
That was that
shocks, at that E3.
Yeah, I remember it just being gorgeous. Speaking of Resident Evil,
right.
Number 4 on
this
our
couldn't
list.
be more appropriate.
Resident Evil 3, and we just have to wait a few months, but man. It's funny. I didn't vote for this at all. It didn't make my list because I hadn't played 2 yet.
Yeah.
But it would have.
Right now that you got the connection a little bit.
2 also was not on my ballot for 2019 Game of the Year because I had not played it yet. Had it
understandable
been played by me, both of these might have been even higher.
Right.
And I believe Resident Evil 2 finished 3rd. It finished relatively high in our top 10.
It was pretty high up in our
list.
top 10, yeah.
So we're getting another fantastic... It would appear remake of a Resident Evil game, and this time Resident Evil 3.
Yep, this one
looks
will
beautiful.
Be cool.
I've watched the trailer a ton since beating Resident Evil 2. I got to tell you, it's a big deal. So that is coming out in April, PS4 and Xbox One.
This one will be cool because even the original Resident Evil 3 was very open-ended compared to the first 2. Raccoon City is just completely in chaos at the start of the story for this game. It's really like one giant playground for you. So I would say, and I would imagine more so than the Resident Evil 2 remake, this one's going to be a lot more non-linear. Choice is going to be a lot heavier, and you're really just going to be able to kind of go about at your whim and complete the story as you please. All the while, Nemesis will be chasing you and trying to kill you. So have fun with that, even more so than Mr. X was from Resident Evil 2.
Oh, thanks.
Just the look on your face tells me you had some fun experiences with Mr. X.
Yeah, I did. I certainly did. Lots of cussing there. Number 3 on the list. So we talked about game delays. This one kind of was the highlight of the week news-wise for gaming. Cyberpunk 2077. I don't think it hurts anticipation in the least bit, but now it is coming out September 17th instead of April.
It is what it is.
No big deal. There is a really interesting editorial from Kotaku that talks about how game delays actually hurt people that work at game development companies. I encourage you to go read that. It's kind of sobering to think of. If you're ever burned out at work or think you're having a bad day, go take a read with that. They're talking about how it extends people's days.
Right. The crunch.
For months.
Right.
The crunch doesn't get any better.
No.
It doesn't open up their time. It just means that they've got to crunch for longer.
Right.
So, regardless.
I don't think CD Projekt Red is doing crunch, though. From what I understand, their working environment is a lot more welcoming and understanding of people's time and commitment.
That's what it sounds like.
It almost sounds like they're delaying this so that they avoid crunch for this game. Yeah.
And I wrote it up. I haven't pasted it into our article yet. But was there any greater moment, I think, at E3 than Keanu just popping out on stage and being a part of this game? Let alone, first of all, it's a big deal that Keanu Reeves is in the game and a prominent character from what it sounds like.
Yeah.
Second of all, he was there.
Yeah, he was on stage.
Man, I've always said, short of maybe Robert Downey Jr., possibly, and not even that at this point, I don't know if he would have gotten a more well-received actor walking into this game.
Because that was just a couple weeks after John Wick 3 came out in theaters.
Yeah, it was.
Maybe not even a full month.
Absolutely incredible. High pedigree from CD Projekt Red with the Witcher series, and we're excited for this game. There's not much we haven't covered with it, so we'll just have to wait a few more months to get it. Speaking of waiting a few more months to get it, we're going to have to wait till September 4th for Marvel's Avengers from Square Enix and Crystal Dynamics. I'm not happy that these games are so close together now.
Yeah.
Not that they were super far apart, but now they're 2 weeks apart.
Yeah, which one are you going to pick right away if it has to be? I don't expect you to answer that question. That's just, I'm throwing that out there as a hypothetical.
I will tell you, if push comes to shove, it'll be Avengers for me.
I get that.
Because I still haven't finished Witcher 3, and I don't want to be that way with Cyberpunk. I want to get in and I want to play it, but I haven't finished Red Dead Redemption 2 either. Some of those big games are kind of daunting to me. But Marvel's Avengers didn't have an incredible showing last E3. I think all of the foundation seemed to really promise a nice game coming up, though. And then Crystal Dynamics has a nice pedigree with the Tomb Raider reboots over the last few years. So that's very exciting. What's your level of excitement for this game? What are your thoughts here? I don't feel like we've talked about it a ton.
I gotta see a little more of the gameplay before I'm sold on it, but I think the concept is definitely there. This definitely feels to me like the most ambitious superhero game since probably Arkham Knight, I would say.
That's a big deal, for someone like that.
Yeah, I can't think of any other superhero property in gaming that's gone to this level. I mean, and I love the Injustice games, for example. But the ambition factor in this is you can feel this one. And
with Injustice, not to take anything away from it, but you can almost argue there's a little bit of a foundation in place with the Mortal Kombat games,
exactly.
For example.
Yeah, and they absolutely have that those fighting mechanics in there.
And maybe that is a thing here too with how you control Lara in Tomb Raider, but this is pretty different from what you're seeing. You're going, Tomb Raider / Indiana Jones / Uncharted kind of genre to superheroes.
Yeah.
So.
And is there going to be that connection to Spider-Man?
Oh man,
it's going to be interesting if they're planning to do some kind of shared universe. But
I proposed the Marvel gaming universe last year. Go read my article. I hope this is it coming to fruition here. Number one on the list is no real surprise. Another game that was delayed. This is coming out in May now. It was going to come out in February. The Last of Us Part 2. We covered Last of Us earlier in the show, and that's exactly why I went back and played it. I knew right after Christmas I was going to be playing Last of Us because originally it was coming out in February.
Right.
So I wanted to get it in just to kind of, I guess, wet my whistle again for my appetite for that. And while we're talking about The Last of Us and Naughty Dog, it's funny, you see a similar trajectory almost with Naughty Dog and Sucker Punch, right? Because Sucker Punch had Sly Cooper, kind of this cartoony character, and then they go to Infamous, a little bit more serious. And then we get to Last of Us, which is,
Dog.
Ghost of Tsushima, which looks like a dark atmospheric game.
Yeah.
Naughty Dog goes, and I'm missing games in between, but they go Crash Bandicoot.
I see what you're saying.
To Uncharted, fun kind of action game, to The Last of Us, which is a very dark, emotional game. So it's fun to see those studios kind of grow up with their fans, I guess. Almost.
Yeah, there is kind of a similar,
in a way,
production pattern there. I know what you mean now.
So Last of Us Part 2, no better way for Sony to sort of end the PS4 generation and the immense success that it was in terms of first-party games. What else is there to say about Last of Us Part 2? I can't wait to spend more time in that world, spend time as Ellie and with Joel, and we'll kind of go from there. But I imagine this makes its way to PS5 in the next year and a half as well. Hi.
We have a very special visitor.
We do.
Watching us just now.
Hi, Daisy. You can kind of wave to the camera. No? Okay. So that's our top 10 list. We'd love to hear yours. Again, visit us, facebook.com/Geekiverse, or leave a comment at youtube.com/Geekiverse to let us know what your list looks like and which of our games made the cut as well for you. So wrapping up this episode of Geeks Got Game, the first one of 2020. We went a little bit longer here because we had a little bit more to cover.
There's a lot to go over.
Yeah, and not bad time-wise.
No, not at all.
We did a pretty good job.
Yeah, not from what I can see.
We've got to record an episode of Pluscast after this. So, Jeff, oh boy, here comes
And we got a
Here
dog.
comes Lindy Ruff.
Beautiful dog. Hey, buddy. Big old lab.
Sorry, everybody. Jeff, where can we find you on social media? What can you plug for your own work as well as the Geekiverse?
You can find me on Twitter at Jeffrey Pavs and on Instagram, Jeff Pavlak. In addition to the numerous, top 10 lists we did last year, I put together our favorite gaming moments of 2019. So not necessarily what our favorite games were, but what our favorite sequences were, whether it was a cutscene, a boss battle, our favorite, instances or memories from specific games of last year. We had some really interesting ones on there. If you do read it and you haven't played Astral Chain and Jedi Fallen Order yet, I'd stay away from it because there are some spoilers. So just keep that in mind.
It's a great list. I challenge you to guess where my moment came from. You'll never guess the game that I possibly picked from.
You actually will.
Lauren, if you had to guess a game that I picked my favorite moment for last year to come from, where would you say? Oh my gosh. She picked Star Wars. It is Jedi Fallen Order.
What a dummy.
So, go check the list. Listen, it was Rogue One-esque. That's all you need to know. Go read the article. I am at Josiah D. Leroy on Twitter. You can follow me there on social media. Often talking about games, movies, and the Buffalo Sabres, who've been playing a little bit nicer lately.
They're getting there.
I'm not quite dead inside. I'm close to it.
Oh, yeah.
But the Bills had a nice season, so that was fun.
They did.
Most fun season probably of our lifetime. Be it that we were aware.
Yeah.
They had the Super Bowl years, but we were 4.
Yes, we were.
We were 0-4.
Yeah.
So that's how that went. But lots going on at the Geekiverse. As I mentioned, we are about to record an episode of Pluscast. So if you are into Disney Plus and all things Disney, you'll want to check out that podcast and video wherever you listen to podcasts, whether that's Apple Pods or on SoundCloud. And then you can check out the video at youtube.com/Geekiverse. In terms of movie reviews, we've got a lot going on there this year. We've already reviewed a few. You can check those out, including what I think is going to be my movie of the year in 1917.
I gotta go see that.
Absolutely unbelievable. Get your hands on that as soon as you possibly can. That is worth your time and money. I might go see it again. I'm upset that it's not on IMAX. It's not playing on IMAX, and that
doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
That is a movie that needs to be seen on IMAX.
Yeah, that's one that would actually justify it.
But it is what it is. So, thank you for listening/watching to this episode of Geeks Got Game, the Geekiverse's all video game podcast. For Jeff, I'm Josiah. We will see you next month.